Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tim Hughes. I'm the author of the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. And I'm also the co-founder of the company Digital Leadership Associates. With me today is Alice Elliott. Alice is the person that actually got me into writing. So I'm really grateful for her to come on today, and we're going to talk a little bit about blogging. We're going to hopefully talk about a little bit of writing, and share some of your knowledge with us, Alice. So Alice, just introduce yourself, explain who you are and what you do.
Okay, my name is Alice Elliott. I'm also known as the Fairy Blog Mother. That's my alias. I actually help people understand all about blogging. So I actually help people who are real beginners, and I mean real beginners.
Like I was, yes.
I mean, no, even more beginner than you, Tim, because you were pretty switched on already, actually. So I actually go even beyond that. Now, you don't know where the on-off switch button on the computer is, sort of thing. But I also go up to really advanced people like Tim is now, should the need occasion arise. And it's all about explaining blogging in a way that wasn't technical, because a lot of stuff out there is very technical. They assume you know all about coding. They assume you know all about this and that and the other, when really blogging doesn't need all that at all. It actually can be done by anybody.
So what's if people wanted to find you on Twitter, where would they do that?
Well, on Twitter, I'm Alice_Elliott.
Yes.
And if you want to see my blog, it's thefairyblogmother.co.uk.
Okay.
And so you can catch up all the lovely things I'm doing there.
Okay. So if someone was watching this and they wanted to start to blog and they hadn't done it at all, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is to go and look at wordpress.com, because it doesn't require any payment. It requires the minimum of understanding technical stuff, and you can actually start straight away with your first blog within minutes.
Right.
It's that easy.
Okay. It's just a case of typing stuff in.
Just literally is setting it up, pressing a few buttons to activate it, opening the post page and filling stuff in and publishing it. That easy.
And in terms of them going through the thought process of actually writing something, you know, I did a blog the other day and that I put out that you gave me a quote, and it was what I thought was really nice was a way of getting people to say, right, I'm actually going to make a go of it. It's 2017. I've always said that I'm going to actually have a go at blogging. How do I actually sit down and actually write something? Right,
start something. Usually, if you have an idea, plow ahead and do it. If you haven't got an idea, because that's quite a lot of the idea, you sit there looking at your empty screen and panicking, I would just find some sort of timer device, or a kitchen timer, or an egg cup thing you turn upside down, anything that counts out the seconds, and set it for 5 minutes and just start writing anything at all, anything that comes to your head. It could be something stupid like, I am sitting here writing anything I can think of in my head. Usually when you start doing that, then you find you continue, because the brain suddenly clicks into action. And I bet you by the time that timer goes off at 5 minutes, you won't want to stop, because you'll be into the swing of it, and you'll be so engrossed in, even if you're just writing trivial trash, it doesn't matter, because you are writing. The answer is that then you go back later and you look at what you've written. Because when you start writing, you don't edit, you just keep writing.
Okay, I'll come back to that in a second, because that's really important, because that's something that I learned that I hadn't realized. But if I remember when I did your course, you had something on the table which was like nothing. And you said, sit down and write about it. And we all went like this. And then we started, and it's like, here's a bottle of water, write about that. And you go, well, the top's off it, and he's half drunk it, and things like that. And then you actually got into the flow of it, no pun intended. And you did start writing something.
It's just you need to get, it's getting over that initial barrier, that wall that stops you from doing it. And even if you, the first 5 minutes you write total rubbish, it doesn't matter, because once you've gotten the idea of it, then you can start writing the real thing. Because it's like, you know, you need to stretch and to limber up for you running a marathon. You can't run a marathon when you haven't done your muscles. So you give yourself a good stretch and a good limber up and run around the park, and then you do the real thing. And it's exactly the same with blogging and writing. You know, you need to give yourself a chance to warm up and stretch before you do start the real thing.
So I know you always recommend basically. When your recommendation to me was to start writing on a bit of paper, which I actually found better, and I used to do I probably spent the first 6 months of writing always on a bit of paper. Then I had to retype it, which and I think it was just really useful to get to the flow. But that point that you said, and I wanted to come back to, which was the fact that there was two sides of the brain. One is the creative side, and the other is like the corrective side. And what you were saying is what you need to do is you use the correct, and just write. Don't worry about the typos or the grammar or going back and checking things. Just write, and don't go and correct, because you then switch the sides and you lose the creative flow. And that's totally the case for me. Is that what you're?
It's very true. I mean, don't forget that blogging is a conversation. You are having a conversation with your readers. You aren't dishing out a corporate report or some academic thesis. It's nothing really dull and boring. It's got to be readable by your readers. And usually conversation is a much more easier way of communicating than sitting down and writing something dull and dry. So how you think is how you should write. So if you want to sort of think how you want to communicate to your reader, the person who's reading your blog, and I mentioned reader in the singular because it is one reader every time. You haven't got a group of them sitting around your computer reading your blog unless you're lucky. You communicate with your reader as if you were talking to them in your kitchen or in a coffee shop or in a party or anywhere you would talk to your reader. So how you write is like you transcribe the conversation in your head. So then you would not go back and edit your conversation. You just keep going. And you might cross out a few bits if they're embarrassing, but you would just keep going until the end of the conversation. Then, as you might do with a fancy video, you might edit it. So then you go back and read your conversation, and you probably find that quite a lot of it doesn't need editing anyway. And if you are brave, you edit very little. You just take out the bits that don't understand properly or need to be explained slightly better to be understandable, or to correct things that might be slightly wrong. But generally, your conversation, your way of communicating on your blog is like having I'm talking to you now. And you may repeat things several times. You might put in a few ums and ers. You might have commas in strange places because of the way you breathe. In fact, where you put punctuation should be how you breathe, how you naturally stop things. I mean, more full stops, shorter sentences, quick, snappy style. That's how we all communicate. I mean, dare I say it, Trump does communicate because he has short sentences, very short sentences.
Okay, I know you're a literary person, so Hemingway writes like that as well. So
exactly.
He did write like that. So very short sentences. I mean, people could say that I have a chatty style, but it's just I write like I speak.
Exactly, it's how you should do. You should write how you speak, and that is. It's also very fast to read. People can read it easily. They can imagine you speaking in their head. You can't get that with dry, dull, boring text. You can't imagine the person speaking in the head. Another thing to do is to make sure that when you finished your blog, you ought to read it through. And if you can read it through easily without falling over your words or getting stuck or coming across a sentence that it takes too long for you to understand, you've won. So if you have a sentence that's too long or something doesn't quite work, just try saying it again a different way and then write down what you said. And that's probably a good way to edit something, is to literally make it communicable, readable, legible by reading it.
Yeah, I was given some advice by an ex-BBC journalist, and he recommended, because at the time I was on holiday in Cuba and I was in the middle of writing the book, and he said the best way to check the grammar and everything is to stand up and read it out loud and see that you're actually getting all the breaths in all the right places.
I noticed that very much in your book, Tim, that it was like someone talking to you rather than someone lecturing you.
Right. Okay. Good.
It actually made a big difference in being able to read it, to be honest.
You probably haven't worked. You probably can't work out which chapters I wrote and which ones Matt wrote, but it was always designed to be like that. Yes. Yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I think some people are concerned about when they blog is that they're kind of exposing about themselves or their opinion or their passion, because they're the kind of things that you kind of need to write about. Now, you're very passionate about leaving comments and blogs.
Very passionate about leaving comments and blogs. It's a dying art.
And one of the things that people actually, when you write a blog, if someone makes a comment, it's actually a good thing. Extremely
good thing.
Yeah.
People comment all the time on social media, so why do you forget about the poor blogs? 2 years ago, they all these big, noisy, eminent blogging gurus decided to close down their comments, which was a really bad idea. And then, 18 months later, they suddenly realised how bad it was, and they've all opened them again. I mean, they realise that the power of communication is only, it isn't only real time. It's also expressing yourself in a mini blog, a mini post, as it were, in response to an old post, a big post. And that's what proper blog commenting should be. It should be again another little conversation explaining exactly how you appreciate the post and what you can add to it that's valuable, and how you can educate other people into what you do, as well as what you think about the actual post you're commenting on. So that is much better than just writing a nice post and leaving at it, because that means absolutely nothing. It's meaningless.
Yeah, I always welcome people comments, and I welcome people to disagree with me, because the whole point of life is that we have a debate and we have and everyone has a right to disagree with what I say. But there will be people that will say, I do agree with you but I think that people forget that social media the social part is a conversation.
Yes, I mean, social media is a conversation. You can still have a conversation on blog comments.
Yes.
Just you don't get immediate response, and you don't get that quick fire one sentence comments that sort of pop,
like you get on Facebook sometimes.
Yeah, you get lots of little responses, little smileys and little quips and triggers and things like that. Those aren't acceptable on blog comments. Those should be confined to social media. That's where they live. Whereas in the blog comment, there's actually no reason why you can't still, as you said, disagree. But when you disagree, you've got to therefore say the reason why you disagree and back up your arguments and give yourself some reasonable information to prove why you think what Tim said was not right and what you think it is right. And therefore, Tim will be very happy to read your side of the argument. And then you respond accordingly.
So, you've done some research and you've written a book, haven't you, on blog comments?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And what's your view on so if one of the things that I think people can get to start with doing, if they want to start working or doing blogs, is actually to try and to increase their writing, is actually to start making those comments on blogs.
It's a great way to practice. I mean, writing your own posts can be quite daunting at first. So why not do a couple of commenting anyway? I mean, it's twofold. Not only are you practicing writing short, concise little mini post versions in response to another post, but you're also finding other information posts around, relevant posts like you, blogs that are worthwhile following, and you're also at the same time getting yourself noticed, because you are, if you provide good, valuable, relevant responses, comments to people's posts, they will then be interested in you. And since every time you leave a comment, there's always this real respectable backlink back to your own blog, there's no reason why they can't click on that blog and that link and then go and read what else you said on your own blog. Even if you haven't got one, it's still a start, because once you've got known in the big blogosphere, and of course on social media as well, if you said nice things on other people's blogs, when you get to say things in your own blog, there's already waiting audience there to start reading it, because you've taken the bother to go out there and give some, encouragement and enthusiasm and appreciation. Like, hopefully people you've been nice to will come back and be the same to you again on your blog.
Yeah, I kind of felt a bit like the Bob Dylan, you don't immediately start doing these massive gigs. You've got to start off in the folk clubs. And I when I was doing stuff on WordPress, when I started blogging, I went and sought out lots and lots of different blogs and made lots and lots of comments. And you're right, the people always go, "Who's that?" And then they come and have a look at you.
I mean, you make a good impression. You've won them, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. And some people will follow back, and some people won't. You're not going to be, if you're writing about a particular niche, like I've always done. Some people aren't interested, but some people are. And there was always these massive bloggers that would never really, they were the sort of Bob Dylan when he started playing at the massive concerts, and they tend to, be broadcasting rather than actually having a conversation. But I think it's so important to leave comments and to thank people as well.
Definitely. Every time someone leaves a comment on your blog, it's only polite to respond. And if you're really clever, you can get quite a number of threads going, that is ping-ponging of comments back and forth. And that makes it exciting. It gives a discussion. It gives other people something worthwhile reading, and then they might want to join in. It's like the same on social media, how you get these threads pinging back and forth. We just do a bit more wordy on a blog, a bit more better grammar and a bit better more writing. As you know, as you said, it's a way of learning how to write. And once you've mastered that way of commenting, that's only a step forward to writing full blogs or anything else you want to write.
I did a blog, which I think was 10 or 12 reasons why you should be using Twitter without actually using it. Why you can just sign up. And I need to go and dig it out, actually. And people started adding ones to it.
Yes, that's the whole point.
And that was it. It was
10.
And it
adds another 5, that's
15. And it just kept going on. It just kept growing,
But brilliant. That's how it should be. One thing about getting comments, you've got to ask for them.
Yes.
So if you've written a post that, say, has 10 points in it, there's no reason why at the bottom you can't say, if you can think of any more, please add them in the comment section. And suddenly you find you've got 20 points offered by, say, 7 different commenters, and that's another post, your post part 2, as it were, taken from the information you've got from commenters, because your commenters can give you some fantastic ideas from what they do. And there's no reason why you can't have a nice, juicy discussion in your comment section with one particular commenter or particular reader on one blog, and then take that information away and go and write a second post another day, which again, and then tell the original commenter, look, I've written a second post. Do you want to come along and leave a comment on it? So that you can at least guarantee one comment on that.
Or one reader, yeah.
Or 2 if you respond to it.
Yeah. So you also are very active on Twitter, and you use that as a way to promote your blog, don't you?
Yes, it is a great way. But the trouble with Twitter that you've got to do it several times a day or it gets missed. I also promote on other social media platforms too, LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and Google Plus. Generally you pop them on to see if anybody bites, because not everybody's going to be the same one. But then how you do that needs to be done in a different way. You can't do the same kind of noisy, chatty sort of spiel that you would do on Facebook, that you would do on Twitter because there's enough room. And also then the kind of people who hang out on LinkedIn are quite the same people who hang out on Google+. So you've got to be aware of how you communicate your blog when you promote it on these different platforms. And if you've got pictures or infographics on your blog, then it's a great place to put this Pinterest. And if you've got crazy pictures, you can put them on Instagram. And there's different ways of promoting your blog. And also you can repurpose it. You can make a video of it, put it onto YouTube, or you could do an audio, put it onto SoundCloud, or you could do a PowerPoint presentation, put it onto SlideShare. I mean, there's loads of different ways of taking your blog and rewriting it, repurposing it, reproducing it in a different way to get a different kind of reader. So they still get the same message, but in a way that they can pretty understand and appreciate. That's extremely important.
And there's many ways that you can use that. I agree. Different platforms have different ways of posting, and you can use those as a way to drive people to your blog.
And getting the message out, what do you want to say?
Sorry?
As well as getting the message out, what do you want to say?
Yes. And you also do things like you're interested in collecting people's email addresses as well, aren't you?
Yes, that's important. The people you collect on your email address really should be people who are obviously interested in you. They're warm leads. So how you communicate back is that you should therefore treat them as they're your best mate. When you blog in your blog, you're blogging to anybody. And on social media, you could be blogging to anybody. But the people on your list are actually warm leads, and therefore they need to be treated accordingly. You need to make them feel warm and fuzzy and needed and wanted. And therefore you share with them bits and pieces that you wouldn't necessarily share with the big bad world. So these people, once you sort of get friendly and happy with them, once you've communicated a few home truths and given them a few secrets that nobody else would know, then you can gradually start to sell. But you can't sell on cold people because they're not interested. But once you collected the warm people, then you make them red hot, and that's when they press the pay button. But the only way to do that is to keep communicating with these lukewarm people to make them a bit warmer every time you talk to them. And of course, you must remember that if you're lucky and you've got new people joining all the time, with some people you're starting when they're only semi-warm, and some of them are already quite hot. So you've got to adjust how you communicate so that you aren't alienating those who are only lukewarm at the time.
So when giving your email to people or handing your email over is actually quite a big thing, isn't it?
Massive, yes, but they should be respected. And usually you have the double opt-in that takes away the spammers and the people who are messing you about and don't really want to know. They just want the incentive you give them and nothing else. And that's why you should also make a note of all the number of times people actually open your email letters. Also, you need to make sure that the title you put into the browser bar, when they see it in their email list, it needs to be encouraging to open it in the first place. And that will make sure you have more people opening. And also the first paragraph you put, it's just the same as writing a post. The title should be encouraging to click, and the first paragraph should say everything they need to say within 5 seconds. Otherwise, you've lost them. And once you've done all that magic, then you can say the rest of the stuff. And with call to action at the bottom is what you both get beneficial to you, which you are looking for in the end. But it's the middle of the bit is the chatty, happy. I really appreciate you following me. This is some special goodies because you are my best mates, and blah blah blah. Keep them happy, keep them sweet, and then once to those who are a little bit warm, the others might just click on the call to action button, and it's a win-win scenario at the end.
Right.
So that's probably I can do that with your posts as well. But remember that the people who read your posts aren't necessarily going to be warm; they might be quite cold. But you might get a few that might click on the call to action button.
Yes, they may go to your blog or buy your book or something like that.
Yeah, they might do something small.
Yes, it would be small, probably. Yes, but it also means that you're front of mind. Certainly, if you're using LinkedIn, which I am at the moment, it's about being front of mind of people. So there are certain people who you're nurturing who may buy in the future. And what you'll keep doing is saying, hello, I'm here. Here's another piece of information. If you hired me, I'm really good, that sort of thing, you know.
But you've got to be in front, and that's why this constant blogging. Blogging doesn't have to be on your own blog. It can be on Pulse, on LinkedIn as well, as we all know. And if you want to go down the Twitter front, it could be on Medium.
Yes.
And so you don't have to only have it on your blog. You can have it on other platforms. But a word of advice is that you slightly change it, just to make sure that the spiders don't get pissed off with what you do. Because if they see any whiff of replication, they might give you a bad point, which you don't really want. But to get in their good books, to get the brownie points you're looking for, make sure you change at least the headline and the first paragraph, middle paragraph, and end paragraph. And that's a quick way of quickly repurposing your post for something like LinkedIn. And shove an extra couple of pictures in that's different or something. Mind you, they can't really read pictures, doesn't matter. But anyway, slightly change it, just so that the spiders, who are basically algorithm mathematical things, that they're not like human, they don't recognize the same code.
They're not really spiders.
You're tweaking them, you're fooling them. And if you manage to fool them successfully, the same post gone out to a different audience, job done.
But there's a number of people, aren't there, that don't necessarily run their own blogs. They actually spend their time guest blogging.
Oh, guest blogging is huge. There's some people who, even before they started a blog, did nothing but guest blogging, and built up a massive reputation by doing that. Because if you're astute, you can get yourself on as a permanent guest blogger on certain websites, which means you have your own profile there. And if you've got your own profile, they can then obviously go back to links and catch you on social media, or your blog if you have one. But the way you treat a guest blog should be just the same as you treat your own blog. It's got to be tip-top, fantastic material that catches the attention. And it's a way of getting yourself in front of, dare I say, more cold readers who you want to make them nice and warm and fuzzy back on your own blog. But the only way for them to find out who you are is to borrow other people's platforms. Always be mindful of the other people's platforms you're using. Make sure that you write in the same style and use the same sort of language, and you keep to their subject matter. But as long as you're, you behave yourself and do the right thing, there's absolutely no reason why you can't spread your wonderful message in other people's platforms. And then if they're interested, they come back to your blog via the profile, the bio bottom at the bottom of your posts. And
that should be driving inbound to you. When I talk about a blog, ultimately a blog, you could be like when I was at Oracle, in effect, I'm getting paid by Oracle, so I don't need to earn anything from the blog. Now I run it myself. It's all about how to actually monetize that, which is about getting inbound.
Exactly. I mean, how you monetize it, whether it's small, buying a book, or big, clicking on, asking for you to come around and talk to
help them out,
their firm, or whatever you want, whatever your end of your funnel is. Yes, it's all to do with gradually getting people down that funnel to the ultimate, the big bucks at the bottom, basically. You can only do that by offering little bucks at the top.
Yes, yeah.
Making them feel happy and
Alice, is there any other piece of advice you have for the watchers and the listeners
about blogging? Be consistent with your posts. It's all very well getting sort of a hot rush and doing about 5 or 6 in a week, and then thinking you're really good, and then sitting on your heels the next week and doing nothing, because the world doesn't work like that. If they suddenly think that you're, that you're a ferocious writer, and they suddenly expect you to have 6 a week, carry on having 6 a week if you can cope with it. If not, spread it out evenly. Because if you've written 6 in a row, why not schedule them to go out 2 a week for the next 3 or 4 weeks? And that makes it much easier for you to then plan ahead, because if you know you've already got these posts already scheduled out, you can then get to writing the next 6 in a time that's convenient to you. And again, that's again scheduled out for the next series of weeks in advance, so you're never going to be behind. Another thing to do is to have a list of possible post ideas that you put into a little book, and this helps towards your scheduling, so that when you have finished running out of ideas and you're ready to write the next lot, have a look at your little book and think, various ways that you can express those particular subjects in different ways. One subject might take 3 posts if you're very clever and you carve it up appropriately. Or you want to take a different view at it, or you want to present it a different way, whether you make it visual, make it an argumentative, or want to make it describing a mistake, or you want to make a list of something, top 10 or something. There's more than way to skin a cat. So you want exactly the same as how you write a post.
And you said on the course was you need to know what you want to be famous for.
Exactly. So if you want to be known for what you're famous for, you need to share actually your best material. You mustn't hold back on what you know, because thinking that you should only sell what you best at. That's not true. It's almost like you need to show off the 80% of what you know, so that they know that you know exactly, you are the expert that you claim to be, and retain that really whopping stuff of 20% that deserves the big bucks. But the 80% that you show off still needs to be tip top, really valuable, really relevant material. And keep hinting at those 20% that you're keeping back, so they want more. You want to whet their appetites with the information you give them. Promise them and make sure the 20% you have is really excellent, but promise them the excellence you have in the 20%. And you can command big bucks for 20% if you manage to pitch it right, by delivering the 80% to the big bad world. And that is to cold people and to lukewarm people as well. As I said in the newsletters, you give them secrets, little freebies, little exclusive bits that they wouldn't get elsewhere. And that's what makes them think, oh, she really knows her stuff. What's in the 20%? I want to find out what the 20% is. And that's when they click on the call to action button.
Hire me, yeah.
So that's probably the psychological way of looking at it, I think.
Okay, good. So Alice, we've done about 35 minutes. It's been fascinating. Thank you so much. So remind everybody again where they can get hold of you.
Well, you can find me on my blog, fairyblogmother.co.uk, or you can find me on Twitter at Alice_Elliott.
And it's ELLIOTT.
Yes, ELLIOTT. Make sure you've got all the right number of L's and T's, or you'll get somebody else, and they won't be as good as me. So you would have missed out. So it's Alice, as in Alice in Wonderland, _Elliott with 2 L's and 2 T's, and you will get me. And I'll look forward to hearing from you. Just say, I saw you on Tim's program.
Yes.
I want to connect. And I'll say, yeah, sure, why not?
Have a conversation. Yeah. Good. Thank you, Alice. Good to see you again. And we'll catch up soon.
Brilliant. Thanks very
you.
much, Tim. Have a great time.